A week before the wedding, the house was too full. Suitcases in the hallway. Voices carrying through the kitchen. My brother had arrived early, along with my parents and a few cousins who were helping with decorations and logistics. The place felt busy in the way weddings always do, half celebration, half controlled chaos. I stepped outside one evening to take a call from the venue coordinator. When I came back in, the conversation in the dining room stopped me before I turned the corner. My brother was laughing. "Wait until the toasts," he said. "We'll make him look like a complete joke in front of his bride." Someone else laughed. I recognized my cousin's voice. "Do you still have that story from college?" "Oh yeah," my brother said. "And the camping trip one. I've got material." My mother added something softer but still amused. "Just don't make it too mean." "It's a wedding," my brother said. "That's the point." There was more laughter. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have. Not angry, just familiar with the feeling. Then I walked upstairs before anyone saw me. Growing up, I'd been the easy target, not bullied exactly. My family loved humor, and in their version of it someone always had to be the punchline. I happened to fit that role well enough. At family gatherings, my brother told stories about my mistakes. My dad would add details that made them bigger, funnier. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. It was easier. But hearing it again that week, knowing it was planned, rehearsed, waiting for the exact moment I'd be standing next to the woman I was about to marry, felt different. Not sharper. Just clearer. The next few days passed normally. Or at least they looked normal. I attended meetings with the florist, confirmed seating charts, answered messages from relatives asking about directions and parking. My brother joked constantly about his speech. "Don't worry," he said once, clapping me on the shoulder. "I'm gonna make it legendary." I smiled. At the rehearsal dinner, he raised his glass halfway and said, "Just warming up." People laughed. My fiancée looked at me for a second like she sensed something underneath it. But I shook my head slightly. It wasn't time to explain yet, because the decision I was making wasn't about stopping them. It was about something else. The wedding day itself moved quickly. Ceremony first. Standing across from my partner, hearing her voice steady through the vows, the rest of the noise faded for a while. That moment felt simple in a way the rest of the week hadn't. When the ceremony ended and everyone moved toward the reception hall, I felt calm in a way I hadn't expected. Dinner came and went. The room filled with the easy atmosphere weddings create, wine glasses clinking, people telling stories at their tables, music low in the background. Eventually the master of ceremonies stood near the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we'll now begin the wedding toasts." My brother shifted in his chair. He was first on the list. Before the MC finished speaking, I stood. "Could I start?" I asked quietly. He looked surprised but nodded, handing me the microphone. The room settled. People assumed it was just a thank you speech. I stood beside my wife and looked out across the tables. For a moment I didn't say anything. Then I spoke. "Before anyone else shares a toast tonight," I said, "there's something small I want to say first." The room stayed quiet. "Growing up in my family," I continued, "we've always had a lot of humor. That's one of the ways we show affection." A few people smiled. "But sometimes," I said, "humor also turns into something else. Stories that get bigger every time they're told. Moments where someone becomes the punchline." I paused. "A few days ago I overheard some plans for tonight's speeches. Some stories meant to get a big laugh at my expense." You could feel the room shift. My brother's smile disappeared slowly. I didn't look directly at him. "I've spent most of my life letting that happen," I said. "Because it seemed easier to laugh along than to say anything." My wife's hand tightened gently around mine. "But today is different," I continued. "This day isn't about turning someone into entertainment." The room was completely still now. I looked toward the tables where my wife's family sat. "I've spent the last year getting to know a new family," I said. And one thing I've noticed about them is how they speak about each other, with respect, even when they're joking. A few heads nodded. So before the toasts start, I said calmly, I just want to set a tone for the evening. If anyone wants to share a story, I'd love to hear it. Real memories. Real wishes for the future. I took a breath. But not stories meant to embarrass someone on the most important day of their life. Silence held the room for a few seconds. Then I handed the microphone back to the MC. Thank you, I said. And I sat down. The reaction wasn't loud, just stunned. My brother stared at the table in front of him for a long moment. My parents avoided looking directly at me. Eventually the MC cleared his throat. Well, he said gently, let's hear from the best man. My brother stood. He unfolded the speech he'd written. For a few seconds he just looked at it, then he folded it again. I'll keep this short, he said. His toast lasted less than a minute. No jokes, no embarrassing stories, just a simple congratulations. The rest of the evening returned to something close to normal. Music played. People danced. A few guests approached me quietly to say they respected what I'd said. My parents stayed polite but distant. Later that night, after most of the crowd had moved to the dance floor, my wife and I stepped outside onto the patio for some air. She looked at me for a moment. Is that something they've always done? She asked. Pretty much, I said. She nodded slowly. I'm glad you said something. I looked back through the windows at the reception. My family stood together at one table, speaking quietly. I didn't want to start our life together pretending it was normal, I said. She squeezed my hand. Inside, the music shifted to a slower song. We walked back into the room together. And for the first time I could remember, the role I'd played in my family for years, the easy joke, the reliable punchline, was no longer waiting for me at the table.